An 18-year-old that was a friend of a family sexually abused me. I was 9 at the time, and so that more than anything, it really messed with me.
In addition to being sexually abused as a young girl, Hunter Osborne suffered physical and emotional abuse as well.
My mom looking at me as being physically unattractive and saying, "I'm sorry that you are born with the ugly genes. I'm sorry your head is misshapen." My nickname was Ugly Smugly by her, and she had a little song she would sing sometimes with it. When she would be angry, which was often, she would grab whatever was near and just hit us over the head. She'd get frustrated and smack us. My self-image as a child was broken almost before life even got started.
Much of the abuse continued throughout her teen years.
She just saw that I was interested in the opposite sex, and I was referred to as a slut and ugly. I was struggling to find acceptance, someone just to love me, someone to prefer me.
Hunter grew up in the Mormon church, where she was heavily involved as a young person. Her involvement, however, faded in college and young adulthood.
Purity is very important, and that was a deep desire I had, was to stay pure until I was married. When I gave that up, it's like all the walls just fell down. It just breaks you. It just completely and utterly breaks you.
She became curious about witchcraft because of the control it promised.
Growing up, we would watch shows on Disney Channel like The Worst Witch or Hocus Pocus, and I always loved these witches. It seemed innocent, it seemed fun, it seemed intriguing. It seemed so cool to have that kind of power.
Hunter practiced witchcraft for over 7 years.
I bought every book on witchcraft. I recognized I was a very spiritual person. I believed in a divine power. When we cast spells, it's just like saying a prayer, and we believe that as long as you don't harm anyone, do whatever you want.
She says her sexual activities began to take on a darker nature.
I was constantly with guys trying to search for that knight in shining armor, that rescuer, that guy that was going to be the one. I constantly cohabitated with anyone that I was with. I believe that in order to truly understand who I am spiritually, I need to be sexually free. That began a very dark period.
That period culminated one unnerving weekend in Chicago.
December of '05, we were in a hotel room, and I was in bed by myself, but I suddenly became very aware of a very dark presence. I was paralyzed, and I just knew if I pulled down my covers, I would see a dark image above me. I was just so afraid. But eventually, I broke free of that paralysis, and I pulled down the covers and nothing was there. But it rocked me. It was so scary.
The encounter made Hunter question her lifestyle. Then she took a job at a local bookstore.
All the women at this bookstore, they were all believers, fierce, godly women. And I was very loud and proud about my witchcraft. And because I was so vocal about it, this one particular older woman, she knew exactly how to meet me where I was at. And she started speaking the love of God to me. We could have these little discussions, and she would keep pointing me to scripture.
Over time, Hunter's heart began to change.
I mean, God was just prompting. One day at work, this very cute guy, he asked me if I had ever read a book called Captivating. He said, "Yeah, it's a Christian book. You should read it sometime." And so I was like, "Yeah, okay, I will."
Captivating, written by John and Stacey Eldridge, proved to be life-changing.
It was the first time so many things came to head about my childhood abuse, sexual, physical, that deep desire within my heart to be known, to be loved. They kept referring to Jesus. I had heard that this one church in our community was huge, and I knew if I went, nobody would notice me.
Hunter began attending this church and was later invited to a Bible study.
I did not know the biblical God. I didn't know who he was. But it talks about they bowed down and worshiped made things, the creature instead of the creator. And that definitely penetrated my heart with witchcraft.
During a conversation with the pastor, Hunter realized her need for Christ.
I know that God pulled back the veil of who he was, and I saw sin for what it was, and I saw sin in my life, and recognizing the depravity and the depth of my sin and the bondage of my sin. But I did also hear the good news of Jesus, and he explained to me that salvation comes through faith alone, through Christ alone, and believing in him. And that very moment, I believed.
Hunter accepted Christ and began to mature in her faith.
I bought myself a Bible. I wanted to know God. I wanted to know him more. Everything that I possibly could do, I wanted to be of Christ. I had lived such a dark life. I didn't want that life anymore. I was done with that life. It was not going anywhere. It was on a very fast track to a dark place. I knew I still wanted to be married, but it was different. I did not have a desire to pursue men anymore. I knew that if God wanted me to be married, he would bring to me a godly man who loved him.
God did bless Hunter with a godly husband, Chad, who was a pastor, and 4 beautiful children.
The only man I wanted to have my heart in such a way was Christ's. He was that knight in shining armor that I was looking for. As soon as he revealed himself to me, the truth of who he was, I knew that I was satisfied. My soul was satisfied. All the emptiness in my heart, the hole in my heart, he filled.